Okay, so in addition to the Casper discussion, let me note that there was one bounty in November for Will Chu. And now we can go back, Jim, to your comments on Casper and unforgeable names and hashes, private keys.
Well, the issue came up of a flaw in Casper, and I haven't looked into the flaw. I don't know anything about it really, but
well, the problem is with liveness. And Mike and Kyle are claiming that you can guarantee liveness, and there's what you do is to assume that most transactions do not involve double spending. On the other hand, if you assume that most transactions don't involve double spending, maybe there's a denial of service kind of attack where somebody puts in an enormous amount of double spending. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that in the community debrief, there'll be more said about it.
Cool.
Yeah, Alan, that's an interesting point about opening up the concern of like a denial of service type attack.
Yeah, I mean, proof of stake has been talked about a lot, but never been demonstrated, really. So I guess it's a new area.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed. So we don't have much of an agenda today then, huh?
Well, why don't we go through see what activity reports there have. I mean, you have any activity to report, Tyler?
Not so much. God, I wish I did, but I've just been kind of, this time has been interesting, as you guys are probably aware, with just all of the different concerns that are out there in the world with things, both specifically RChain related and then portfolio company related. And I've just kind of been floating around a bunch of different places, just hearing things on the street. Yeah.
When you mention portfolio related, are you speaking of Life ID or more generally?
Just generally, just with some of the, as you guys are probably aware, there's a handful, not all of them, but there's definitely a handful of portfolio companies that are located in the greater Seattle area. And so I'm fortunate enough to know most of them, just given that I'm also located there. I think you are as well, Alan. But yeah, I've been trying my best to reach out to everyone and just sort of see how they're doing and see what issues and concerns. I mean, honestly, the biggest thing right now is just the funding concerns, given the fact that to my understanding or what I know, almost every reflective company received rock only. So it's been a challenge, right? They're trying to figure out, hey, we gotta keep people fed and keep the keep the paychecks going out, and while being able to execute and deliver. So yeah, it's a concern. It's sort of unfortunate, but it's part of the reality that we live in with this crazy fun crypto world.
Okay. Mr. T, any activity to report? Issues, concerns? Gary? Collab, you know, sets December priorities, sort of, but activity's been relatively low. Valentine and a few others are organizing the marketing activities that have sort of stalled, along with, I guess, Plant Eater and the other crew more generally. Related activities, you know, I think the usability of Rolang is a major issue. And Joshi made a great tool, Row PM, which handles all your URIs for your contracts and resolves the contract dependencies. It's, you know, really a build tool for building an application that includes contracts, you know, Rolang code. And I've been working from the other end, really, in patterns for objects and actors and agents in Rolang. Developed a node contract that we can use to build DID directories, directories of our contracts. We can organize all data as maps of maps in Rolang fairly simply, and I'm working on an object proxy that will allow capability-based access to these objects. And been supporting channels between people. And you know, I'm more or less looking at practical ways that we can do these things today, as opposed to how we might want to do them tomorrow, so to speak, or when we have all the capabilities of RChain. The TV shards is making some progress. They're setting up a situation where block spaces in Tampa will be like a parent organization for businesses coming out of the TV shards activities and, you know, RChain products and developments. It's like an incubator. At least that's how it's being conceived now. And they're interested in funding. They're joining, a big cooperative consortium. I don't remember what it is, but I guess that's pretty much it.
Ned, do you have any news? Or Tyler talked about the ecosystem in Seattle and said it's not as vibrant as he'd like to see. Everybody's concerned about crypto in general.
Yes, I was at the World Digital Asset Conference, WDAC, which was the second one. It was Monday and Tuesday. Greg was down, Christian was here. And it's a ghost town. If you compare that to SF Blockchain Week, was really 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, that was jam-packed. This place was, during the panels and discussions in the main conference room, there was 10% attendance. The bottom level, which had about 15 to 20 booths set up from all kinds of projects, were set up, but nobody was manning the booths, and nobody was in the booths looking for people who were manning the booths. It was
Ned, where was this at again?
The Hyatt Regency in San Francisco.
Okay.
And it was billed as, all the big VC players are going to be there, and that's why Greg and Christian came down, and we spent 2 days there. It's really obvious that the VCs are tapped out. They have no money. Anything they have is invested, and they're just kind of waiting for a turnaround. There's a lack of enthusiasm and tremendous amount of uncertainty. There's a lot of blood in the streets. Greg feels there's enough blood. I'm not so sure. I think maybe it's not. We may have some blood, but I don't think we have rotting corpses yet. So it was hard to get any sense that there was a turnaround imminent. Everybody's got their own Monday morning quarterback on the reasons why, but it's not really good. Folks who got into like ETH early enough, so they're still hugely in the profit zone, are okay, even though they're not happy. We talked to a whole bunch of people about investments and, getting some capital. And, it's always good. Listen, on the other hand, it's always good to talk to people. It's always good to see what everybody is doing. And on a really positive note, I will tell you that anybody I spoke to who I mentioned RChain to was like nothing but super excited about RChain. And we actually uncovered a whole bunch of people who are holding their own personal stakes of RChain. And there was one woman who, I take it she's a fairly substantial holder of RChain, of Rock. And Greg actually really encouraged her. So she was really happy to connect. So there are a lot of positive signs, and even though maybe on the inside we don't see it, there is a tremendous amount of hope and goodwill towards RChain. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Certainly,
I know that there's been a lot. I've seen a lot of internal criticism around Ethereum. Solidity has kind of major holes that I guess are not getting fixed at a good rate. I don't have an overall sense of how well Ethereum is doing, but certainly the price has been dropping, and that must.
Well, they laid off by consensus, which what's it, Jeff Letter? What the hell's his name? I don't know. The really rich guy who made all his money in Bitcoin and ETH, and he started Consensus, which was this company with 1,100 employees. If you ever looked at their website for a job, it's basically, it'll come work for us and you can do basically whatever you want. They, you know, except for Truffle and Infura, I don't think they have any, and I guess Truffle doesn't even really make money for them. So they have no value proposition in terms of business and making money. So they laid off a whole bunch of workers, and I know massive shakeups and reorgs. And yeah, I've heard the same thing. Solidity is a pretty ugly language. I've heard the same thing. So, you know, and all this time, you know, Vitalik, who's like their genius leader, has really just been, who knows what he's doing. So next year we're supposed to get Serenity, which is a hybrid. So who knows?
So, Mr. T, we'll come back to the Casper discussion. We had it earlier, but continuing with the looking at the other projects, the one project that seems to be very aggressive right now is Tron. Tron has always been made a lot of claims. A lot of people have thought that Tron is kind of vacuous, that they can't really deliver. But they seem to be one of the most vocal groups during this particular period of time.
Yeah, Tron has delegated proof of stake. They've been running on mainnet. They have the most transactions. I think they've far surpassed Ethereum in daily transactions. So Ethereum transactions are basically trading between Ethereum holders. Tron transactions, they have a number of dApps running on the platform now, with more coming. It's, you know, they're actually hugely successful in terms of where they're at right now in blockchain. So.
So they are pushing low-cost transactions. They are pushing dApps. Whether or not the theory behind Tron is really well worked out or decentralized, I guess I'll leave it to others to comment.
Well, you know, this whole, yeah, it's interesting. You start talking to people, it's like, who cares about decentralization? And I'm not saying there's not a use case for it, but, you know, when a company is building out, you know, should they be decentralized at that point? And so the position that Tron took was the Tron Foundation was going to run most of the validating nodes at the beginning. And they have relinquished that actually since April or May. So it has been decentralized. They have 27 validators, which they call super representatives, which are voted for by the community. And if you look, those super representatives are responsible for spinning up like considerable hardware. And they publish it freely, so you can see they all have got like 20 gigabyte connections to the internet with like really super fast hardware, not all cloud-based. And I guess the 27 at some point can expand based on scalability issues. You know, the super representatives, you stake them, so it's like staking pools. They're already well implemented with a voting system, and they pay you rewards every day because they take, even though the transaction fees are smaller, their whole thing, kind of like us, right? They want to have a lot of transactions.
Yeah, they're very similar in terms of that.
And they pay those you know, and so when you vote for the super representatives, like you're staking them, and then every day they're giving you back, you know, rewards in terms of tokens, either Tron tokens or their own TRX20 token that, you know, because they're dApps. So, I mean, it's really interesting that, you know, I know a lot of people think Justin Sun, a lot of Western people, Americans, think Justin Sun's a little bit of a clown. But I thought Jonathan put it really well, like, but this is what like the Asian mind, not that they like clowns, but they like a central figure who is vocal and has a really great pedigree and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And so they actually really respect Justin Sun. So,
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure that we want to even characterize that as Asian versus anybody else. I mean, there are people with pedigrees and there are people with good reputations or whatever, popular, and they're all over.
Yeah, I was just saying more in terms of, I mean, I've been on live streams with Justin, and it seems like the American audiences give him crap for being the way he is. And I think that's why one day in a meeting, Jonathan kind of went to great lengths to explain, that's an American perspective and not necessarily a Asian perspective.
Yeah, I think that the entire project has been poo-pooed by
Yeah.
by, I don't know, the center of mass of the blockchain community, but they seem to be very successful right now. I mean, compared to what is going on in the blood in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, they've got something up and working, right? I mean, working since May. I mean, you got to respect that.
David, do you have any observations? You're based in New York, I think, where consensus is based.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Hey, I'm in England, in Bristol. Not much to add. I'm afraid I'm just a lurker. Just really enjoy this meeting and listen to you guys thrash it all out.
Well, if there are no more remarks about the crypto situation in general, well, let's leave the floor open. Maybe Mr. T or Gary, anybody has anything to say about the crypto situation in general? Blockchain in general. Otherwise, maybe we should go back and talk about Mike Stay and Kyle's stuff. So my understanding of what they're talking about is that there's a liveness issue, which means that there are situations in which CBC Casper doesn't ever come to finality, and they attribute this to basically having optimized against double spending. And the Casanova protocol is a way of focusing on the majority or the bulk of transactions which are thought to be not going to be double spend transactions. So I don't really understand it, but there does seem to be some alternative proposed, and I'm sure that it'll get discussed in the community debrief.
Yeah, Alan, I just started hearing about this whole Casanova thing yesterday, so I don't really have any. But one thing I did hear was this is actually something that Pyrofax, or the company that Pyrofax is contracting with, has been working on this for months and months. And so is there any, do they have like a white paper or any deeper information on
There are
this?
two publications that maybe Jim posted. Mike produced a tweet in which he has a high level view, and also there's a paper published in the archive that describes Casanova. I don't know if you've seen that, and I don't.
I haven't. Yeah.
So there's a Discord channel called CBC Casper.
Yeah.
And all the links are in there.
Okay. Has anybody read it?
I've looked at it. I mean, it gets technical quickly, so I don't have anything to add over what Mike said.
Okay. So I get this whole thing, we definitely focused on double spend, and I'm sure Greg has a lot to say about that. And I also know, sorry, being in software dev for many years, you know, you go one way and you find a whole big area that was missed, and now you kind of diverged and you start refactoring to handle that, or you redo to handle that, and then it becomes like a balloon. And you know, I've seen good developers go down rabbit holes for actually, isn't that what Vitalik said in Prague? How every time they were implementing their proof of stake, you know, they would try something and it would take 6 or 8 months to flush it out, and they realized, oops, and then they had to go back. And so, you know, so I'm just wondering if, anyway, I guess at some point I'm gonna have to look at that white paper. But be curious to get other people's input into that.
Mr. T, did you have some particular question or angle that you were looking at? Okay, so that was that was a no. Yeah, so Jim's posted the link relating to liveness. The other thing that comes out in this discussion is that CBC Casper has never been finished. It's always been a sort of a general way of looking at things that depends on oracles and so forth that are not well defined, that are TBDs. So, you know, there may be unknowns involved.
My intuition says that some kind of reconciliation is going to have to be added in order to take the next leap the way in human consensus. We start out with different ideas and then we reconcile our differences. It's not clear that that's necessary for practical machine consensus. You can make it.
Did anyone read the notes from the last board meeting?
I read over it.
I was wondering, did it say that the co-op took out a loan against our house, or is the intention to just go ahead and sell it?
Both.
They took a loan out.
Both.
I mean, both, yeah.
They got the $1 million, I think, and it is also on the market.
What does the house, what did we pay for it? Or what did the co-op pay for it? Does anyone know?
I believe it was listed as $1.5 million on a financial report. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they paid like 1.2 for it, or 2.5.
So there won't be much more to come in from that. They've already got the money in hand for the most part, unless the value of the house goes up, which I doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, given the way that real estate is going, particularly in this area, seems like any price movement will be the other way.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, Alan.
So I'm not sure if we want to yield the rest of this time back to the community or whether there are questions left. There's nothing more in the agenda.
Actually, I had one question, Jim, on the Tampa Bay Shards. And when you said Pocket, the incubator that I guess blockchain co-op or whatever they are was setting up and
Block spaces. Oh, there.
right.
No, there's another. There's a whole Tampa Bay Innovation Center thing that
Okay.
Block Spaces is joining.
Gotcha. So when you said they,
Block Spaces will serve people in the blockchain area specifically,
okay,
developing companies or incubating companies or potential.
okay. So financially, so when you said that, does that mean they have liquid capital that they are going to be investing?
There is I think there's help getting funding, but I don't think it's direct funding.
Oh, okay. And then are they looking to fund like other level 1 platforms like ours, or are they looking to fund DApp projects building on top of whatever platform?
Yeah, DApp projects. This is
okay.
So the projects like RBox and other things that and TB Shards itself would start out under the umbrella of block spaces and later become separate corporations.
Gotcha. Okay. So can I just say one more thing about Tron?
Yes, please.
You know, when I looked at them from a developer perspective, you know, last January, there was like nothing. And then, you know, they started, you know, they have a lot of money committed to developers, right? So they have like 150,000 grant program, 20 developers who makes a proposition, and then the money either gets paid back with like almost no interest, or they give a piece of the company to the Tron. They have all these kind of different well-funded bounty programs. And then at first I was like, okay, but how are you even going to write, you know, dApps against it? There's no documentation. So I went looking a couple weeks ago. There's a tremendous amount of documentation now from everything like we have, like how to spin up your own Tron node, how to run in testnet, how to write apps, dApps. And they're still giving away, you know, they've got $2 billion with a B, $1 billion committed to developer projects like these. I always wondered, like in my last job, when I came to work every day, why my young devs were not jumping ship and going to some project like that. I wish we had the money to fund something like that, but you know, since we don't, and since some of you guys know developers, you know, it could be, you know, a good opportunity for somebody that has capital in this blockchain space at the moment. And then, of course, port it all over to RChain. Anyway, just saying.
I'm wondering if it would be worthwhile to go to Tron for some funding to put Rolang on Tron.
Yeah, you know, I want to talk to Greg because I don't know if he has any kind of relationship with any of the people on that project. You know, it'd be good to know like just some deeper history. And since I am a co-op employee, maybe Jim, you could engage Greg in that conversation.
Yeah. I'll take that as an action item.
Cool.
All right. Are there any more undiscussed issues or? Have anything else they want to discuss? Otherwise, we'll give the time back and see everybody at the debrief.
Cool. I'm just looking at our house. It looks like a nice house.
I had to do. I didn't know the exact address. Couldn't remember it offhand, and so I just put the price in. And I was looking through it. I'm like, I think this is it. And then when I saw the coffee machine in one of the staged photos, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely it. But if you look according to the price history, it looks like they bought it for. I was wrong. It looks like they bought it for 1.5, a little over 1.5, and so they're selling it right now for 1.4. If Zillow's accurate, I assume it probably is. But so.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yep.
Yeah. So that's going to be a unfortunate. We're going to lose a bit to get out, but
yeah. See, now my wife would never let me have that coffee machine. See how it takes up that whole counter?
yeah.
Every time she walked by it, she'd yell at me.
It's a nice machine. I swung by Reflective yesterday and I helped myself to the machine there. It is a nice little thing they got, but but I understand. I know I'd probably get in trouble from the missus if that was on my thing too. But
because trust me, it looks awesome.
oh yeah, it really does make good coffee. But anyway,
all right, I got to go review for giving the community debrief today on the tech stuff. So.
Oh, okay, nice. So we'll come to you. We'll ask you all the questions.
Yeah, actually, you guys heard Nash had an accident and
no.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm just realizing. I hope I'm not. Well, this was on the Discord channel, but yeah, he broke his leg, and so Kelly, yeah, yesterday. No, taking out the garbage. I guess it was icy, and Kelly's worried he's going to use that as an excuse never to take out the garbage again. That was good for me. So anyway, so she won't be there today. Indiana's got something else. So yeah, so I'll be giving that.
All right. Very good.
All right, Ned. So we'll see you soon.
See you guys.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.